irons like this, I typically use kind of what the scary sharp method, piece of glass with some sandpaper. I use water stones as well, but for this instance, you know, they're a little more work and a little more effort than what this is going to be, and I just don't want to drag them out for you know, some irons that I'm not sure are really going to be a long-term investment anyway. If I was doing a quality iron, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm going to plan on more than likely purchasing some Hawk blades and Hawk chippers, you know, then I would probably break out my water stones just to make sure that I get a good, solid, clean surface. But you know, the Scary Sharp system here, it turns out a phenomenal edge as well. It comes down to the preference of the woodworker. Whatever you find easiest and quickest, go with it. For me, I do the both, and I'm sure one day I'll probably pick up another one. What I've got is some emery cloth here, just a medium grit that I'm gonna initially run this off of to see if I can get it down to nice flat before I go up to my wet dry sandpaper and really give it a finish. So. We're done lapping the front, or the front and back of the blades. Fairly happy with it. Like I said, they're not the best quality blade. They'll do for now. You know, and even for the hobbyist, intermediate, you know, I should say beginner, intermediate woodworker, they're probably fine. They lapped fairly flat. There's still a couple spots that, you know, I honestly will probably come back later on sometime and work on getting rid of. But for right now, I'm happy with how they've come out. So with that, let's move on to grinding the bevel and see what we can produce. My choice for grinding the bevel is to use a gauge. Doesn't matter what you use. There's a number of good ones out there, all the way from the basic, you know, I think they're $5 or so, just a standard wheel gauge with no indication of just how to set your bevel, so you have to kind of, you know, play with it a little bit. The one I'm using is a Veritas Mark II. Very happy with it. It does a great job. It gives me the ability to grind micro bevels as I want. On the planes here, I probably won't go to the extent of putting a micro bevel on them, just because I'm not sure of just what the performance is going to be like with it doing so. Just getting it set here. I have it set for, I'm going to grind a 25-degree bevel on this. So I've set it to 25 degrees. And we're just setting it up, get it tightened down and put together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a couple passes on a piece of dry 150, just to make sure that the bevel is where it needs to be, just to clean it up a little bit. And then we'll progress up to 220, 400, 600, and 1200 wet dry auto paper that I've adhered to a piece of float glass. I'm going to grind in a little bit of camber on these. On the smoother, not a whole lot, just enough to, you know, kind of take the corner out a little bit. So as I'm smoothing that piece, I'm not leaving those plane tracks, you know, the square mark as I'm heading through the surface. So I'm going to give it a little bit more attention here. As I'm working the gauge, I'm going to give more pressure on one side for a number of strokes, and then same on the other side for an equal number of strokes, and then just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we'll keep checking square, you know, keep checking that leading edge just to make sure that I'm getting the bevel, or I should say the camber that I'm looking for. So you can see I'm just giving pressure here on the right side, and we'll do the same on the left side. And as I do this, I'm not lifting up, I'm keeping my hand there just for stability, but I'm really giving the weight to one side or the other. that. We'll pull it out and just look at the overall condition, the square. Got a little bit of a burr on the back that I'm going to lap out here on the 220 real quick. Won't take very much to get rid of that micro burr. Very good. A lot of woodworkers will do the shaving trick. I personally have never been a fan of that. Mainly for safety reasons. I've seen too many guys that have done that and end up with nicks and scrapes and scratches, and I'm really not a fan of that. So I get enough just as it is. I don't think I want to give myself anything of that nature on a regular basis or on a purpose basis. Let's move our attention to the chip breakers. The key is on the bend here, the leading edge. You can see here the leading edge. This is what comes in contact with the backside of your cutting edge. If this is not flat, you're going to allow chips to come in between them and cause some clogging, or it's going to allow the blade to chatter as you're planing along. So it's a good idea to just make sure that the edges here are clean. As bad as the milling is on these, I am going to take a mill file and just make sure that this leading edge is nice and clean and burr free, and then make sure that this leading edge is flat. So when it clamps to the blade, we've got it nice and tight, so there's no way for anything to work its way up between the two. So I'm just going to use the 220 paper here. I've pushed it back a little bit so I've got a registration point. So what I've got is, we'll say my ruler here is going to be the sandpaper edge. I want to make sure that I've got it higher than the back tail end of the blade so that I can get a good flat registration on this underside. So by having that in place like I do, I can just do a quick couple passes here. Probably isn't going to take very much. That's probably plenty. Dry it off, wipe off the gunk, and feels very good. Grab our plain blade, get it tentatively into place. I'm going to hold it up to the light. Oh, beautiful. Not even a hint of light coming through that chipper. So with that, I'm going to screw it back together and get it positioned real quick to where I like it, and we'll continue on to the other two chip breakers, and then we'll get it put together and start making some shavings. So bear with me for just a moment here as we do that, and we'll see the final results of what these planes are able to do for us.